100 episodes of yelling, screaming, and arguing with one another, and we're finally here. Episode 100 of Last Man In podcast. What you can expect from us today is we're going to do a full rundown. It's over.
We've quit the show. It's done. We're quitting.
We made it 100 episodes, guys.
We're airing our grievances and then we're leaving.
Yeah, exactly. We're done.
It's over.
Dan, I fucking hate you so much.
Well, you know what? I've hated
Greg, I'm putting your face through this goddamn window and it's glass. That's a table.
It's a table.
Hate you even more.
Yeah, well, you know what? The joke's on you because I hated you 2 years ago.
Good eve, gentlemen.
And Cam's the one wearing a Philadelphia Flyers jersey. So, with Cam gone now, as it's officially
That's all we had to do to get rid of him?
Exactly.
Why did we wait so long?
So we're going to talk about the craziest day in probably hockey history as he's mooning us.
There's a bare ass in your face.
Because apparently when we do the podcast, there's always interesting stuff that happens after said podcast. So craziest day in hockey history happened probably last Wednesday or Thursday, I believe. And then we'll run through most of the major signings from the UFA period, along with some of the Jets signings and another trade that went through, as well as some rule changes. And I wanted to open the floor up to us to talk about our favorite moments through 100 episodes, as we hope to embark on 100 more. So thank you, each and every single one of you guys that have listened over the last 100 episodes. We really do appreciate it. And so without further ado, let's get started.
I missed all the teasers, so now I can't keep us in line because I decided to walk away and moon you.
No, it's totally fun.
We haven't kept the promise for the last 100. It's all right.
Yeah. I know.
We're the number one promise breakers on YouTube. It's fine.
YouTube. Well, on YouTube.
Podcast out of everyone.
I know people break promises on YouTube all the time.
Yeah, at least we're not creating a scandal. At least there's
we
no
should
drama
start
with us.
YouTube drama with
we
other podcasts.
With other podcasts, just
on
call
YouTube,
them out
though,
and just chirp them, but not really be serious.
No, let's send our army of people.
So 12
to attack.
So we have to send ourselves
to their army of people.
That sounds like a lot of effort.
You know what we're gonna do though? We're not gonna.
I'm wearing a shirt that's ruined by bleach.
I love how this awful. Is all. It's is all.
It kind of looks like
here.
a dick.
It's not a dick. How does that look like a dick?
Two balls?
No, it's right a lobster. It's a lobster.
Oh, okay.
There's the body, the claws.
Exactly. Lobster. I like that way more than dick.
It's located near his penile there. Anyways.
It's nowhere near it.
It's a crescent. Some of them have them. Penises, crescents. Google.
Wow. This is why we have an explicit tag.
For sure, right off the hop.
I like how this is the episode we actually have too much to talk about, and we're talking about.
Go.
So before we start any free agent talk, let's talk about probably the craziest, at least 45 minutes in hockey history, and let's start off with the first thing that started all that, which was Taylor Hall traded for Larson.
Adam Larson of New Jersey. Taylor Hall. Face I hate, going to a place I hate. Woo!
Welcome to the park.
Have fun, Taylor. Jurassic Park. Probably got a little better. They did get a little better. But I'm still not watching. I don't care what they say.
The thing is...
I'll watch them play twice a year. Only when they play Winnipeg.
What do you say? What do you go? See, this is what we know leading into the next one. Adam Larson...
How? That's what I want to know, is how. It makes so much more sense the other way. Okay, here's the thing. Taylor Hall is a number one left winger on any fucking team he plays on, except for maybe like Dallas, because Jamie Benn's there.
And Ovechkin, maybe.
Yeah, well, no, for sure.
But
he's in the top 5 left wingers in the league, and you're trading for a guy whose ceiling is a number 2 defenseman on a team.
He's played not even AHL at some points last year. What are you doing?
He's not even projected to be a top number 1 defenseman, and you're like, well. It's not even.
We gotta get it done. We gotta get it done.
It's not even the fact that they got Larson. Like, yes, they addressed the fact that they need a defenseman. It's the fact that they only got Larson. They didn't get anything else. Nothing else.
You guys are mad.
I'm not mad.
Edmonton's they're screwing themselves again, and you're mad.
I'm disappointed for that fan base.
I'm disappointed for Taylor Hall.
Well, he gets to go to New Jersey, who is making some interesting moves to get better. So they might be better next season.
I think the Mark Savard edition is going to really,
nail in the coffin, eh there, Dan? Wow, we're right on the
point. But the reason why I'm so angry about this and why the hockey world was so angry about this was probably the biggest one-for-one trade that we've seen in the NHL in a long time until, like, 20 minutes later, when Subban was traded for Shea the Woodsman Weber.
Okay, first Greg, but and then right before all of this, Stamkos signed.
8 years, 8.5 per with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So the biggest thing with that signing for Stamkos before we get into Subban is he probably took a hometown discount, realizing that I like playing for Tampa. The offers he was getting from other teams weren't enticing him enough to move. And the truth of the matter is he was only going to move if the team was ready for him and if the money was there. And really, the teams that he was looking at probably weren't ready for that win now that Stamkos has. Tampa Bay's in the best position out of pretty much any team that he was reportedly going to be able to play. So that's very...
we said his best chance of winning a cup out of any of the teams that he could go to was to stay where he was.
And he took the hometown discount, and then you find out later on, in free agency, Victor Hedman signs a...
Yep.
Apparently that was a big reason why he...
Pretty hefty deal.
That was a big reason why he stayed.
That's a big deal.
That's a big reason why Stamkos stayed.
I have it here on this list somewhere. Right there. Victor Hedman. 8 years, 7.875 per year. That kicks in next season. So not this season, but next season.
That's fair.
So
that's a good deal.
Very good deal. So they've locked up basically the two guys that they picked in back-to-back drafts in 08 and 09 for the long term, which is what you need. Especially going forward with a great team. So Subban traded for Weber. I have my opinion. What do you think?
Okay.
Because you're a huge Shea Weber fan.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I know you're going to go into the analytics part. I understand that, of course. PK Subban's the best defenseman for analytics pretty much ever. We get it. But Montreal has always coveted that just big, mean, shutdown defenseman. The do-it-all guy. PK Subban isn't that guy. He's something else that doesn't fit the mold. They couldn't appreciate what they had. They paved paradise, and they got a parking lot in Shea Weber.
Damn.
With a big old contract. There's what's his contract at? Because I'm sure there's 4 extra.
I have a stat, actually.
Go. I have tons of stats. I just want to... Okay, my opinion, just to answer the question.
If I can find it here.
Don't hate the deal for either team, because it fixes a need for both teams in... Hey, Nashville needs more scoring. Mm-hmm. They already have great defensemen.
Yep.
Montreal needs defensemen. So in that aspect, straight up, without looking at analytics, right away I was like, not terrible. And then I looked at the analytics. I was like, okay, I get it. All right. I know why people are losing their minds. But it fixes a need for both teams. So I'm not as crazy oh my God, I can't believe this happened.
I'm probably in the minority where I can't believe that Nashville traded their captain. The guy that is their team. He is when you think Nashville, he is the guy. He was their captain. He's their leader. He's a player that can take over a game by himself. I'm also in the majority. I think PK Subban is overpaid. He's not a bad hockey player, but he won the Norris in a lockout season. He won it in 40-game season. I'm not saying he's not a bad player. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it that year, but since then he hasn't come close to being at that level.
That's very debatable. But
also, I had the stat that you said. Shea Weber, he has 10 years left on his contract. He will be paid $54 million over 10 years. PK Subban has 6 years left. He's getting paid $58 million. So he actually is they're paying PK $4 million more and in 4 less years. So PK's actually.
But PK's 4 years younger too.
Yes, but he's more expensive.
The number, if you look at the number, it's
that's fine, because if I'm Nashville, I'm looking at this deal from every aspect that people who the people that watch hockey and do the eye test say works for both sides. One side gets a young defenseman. Now let me just read you off what Nashville has now for defensemen. PK Subban, arguably one of the best defensemen in the league. Roman Josi, arguably one of the best defensemen in the league. Now, granted, Roman Josi, 4 years, $4 million. That's what he's got left right now. So, you've got him at 26, Subban at 27. Then you have Matthias Ekholm for the next 6-7 years, till 2022, same amount of time that you have Subban for $3.75. Then you have Ryan Ellis for the next 3 years at $2.5. There is no better decor than Nashville, and they upgraded huge by getting younger and better and more skillful with this deal.
Wow.
Why you trade Weber? Because Weber is slow and he's not good enough to compete at the high level anymore. At the level that he was competing at when he got that contract, not good enough anymore. You can see it in the analytics. His first passes are terrible. His possession numbers
That's why you
are
put him
not
with
good.
Roman Josi.
Exactly. He shades him. But when you play with Markov, he's not fast enough to compete with the fast guys of the Eastern Conference.
We don't know he's going to play with Markov. He's playing with Nathan Beaulieu, who has a pretty okay first pass. And guess what?
Here's the argument.
Montreal has forwards as well that can score.
So does Nashville. Philip Forsberg. Ryan Johansson.
James Neal.
Okay. But I understand Dan's point. I'm shocked they traded their centerman or their captain. But let's put it this way. Let's say LA came to you and they said, we'll give you Drew Doughty for Dustin Byfuglien. Dustin Byfuglien's your captain. Are you doing that deal? You don't like Drew Doughty. Let's say Duncan Keith.
In a minute.
Duncan Keith for Dustin Byfuglien.
Would I do it?
Would you do it? Duncan Keith, Dustin Byfuglien.
No.
Well, you're in a major minority because Duncan Keith is a much better defenseman than Dustin Byfuglien is.
But it's the other factors.
But Byfuglien fits your team well. Why would you get rid of him if you don't need to?
But you're getting a much better defenseman.
But getting a better player doesn't mean your team is going to be better. It's been proven time and time again that just because you get a better player, and I don't think PK Subban is better than Shea Weber. I think that in maybe 2 or 3 years, Shea Weber will go downhill.
See, they're different players.
They're different players, so you can't really say one's better than the other. I think Shea Weber right now is more valuable. I'm not saying PK Subban's not a good player. He's a good player, and he's younger. He will be their leader in the next 2 or 3 years. He'll piss off Jets fans for the next 8 years, and people will hate him, and it'll be fun to watch.
Jonathan Taves even tweeted, "Hey Weber, sorry to see you go, but not also sorry to see you go because now I don't have to play you."
Yeah. No, he's a tough player to play against, and I retract the statement I said that he's not good enough to play at the top level. But the thing is,
we know what you're getting at. He's not what he was when he signed that contract.
If you want a stats comparison, they both had 51 points this year, but Shea Weber had 20 goals. PK Subban had 6.
Well, fuck that guy. He's
but here's the thing. You're comparing a very, very good Nashville team versus a very, very bad Montreal team. Shea Weber
to get
going
20 goals as a defenseman though. But that's not the team.
Wow, you're getting it.
But here's the point.
Playing different.
Here's the point that I'm trying to make. Shea Weber going to Montreal does not make Montreal automatically better. PK Subban going to Nashville makes Nashville way more dangerous and way better. I think it adds an element of you don't know. And with Peter Laviolette as your coach, a coach that'll actually let you play, Shea Weber's going to crash and burn with Michel Therrien because Michel Therrien can't coach his way out of a paper bag. And it's been shown time and time again.
What the fuck are you saying about Michel Therrien? He's the greatest coach in the world.
And I
don't know.
They essentially made Subban wear goat horns time and time again. Have gone on this.
What does that mean?
Goat horns?
Yeah.
He's the reason why they lose games. But it's not him. It's the fact that they don't have anyone else because Bergevin has not he just hasn't put guys around.
Your brain is stopping because you don't understand. I know, it's crazy.
It's the dumbest trade I've seen in the NHL period. I thought the Hall for Larson deal was the dumbest the NHL could get. Subban for Weber, dumbest deal you can get. Nashville policed them. Nashville walked away and said, Poyle got the call, and he said, we got a player younger and more upside. Perfect. Because the point of the matter is, Weber's contract's done at 43, and he's still getting paid at 7.5. At 32...
His contract's done at 40 because he's 30 right now.
Okay, 40. Sorry.
It's still a long
40.
time.
It's a long time.
Do you think he's going to be playing at that level when he's 40? No. He's not going to get... He's going to get either bought out or he's going to retire early, and it's going to fuck the Montreal...
He's only 3 years older than PK Subban. It's not like there's a 6 or 7 year age difference.
Look at the styles.
27, Shea Weber is 30.
Offensive defensemen last longer in their roles and can perform at a higher level longer than guys like Shea Weber because Shea Weber's game is going to get hurt by speed because PK Subban's game is built around speed. He might not dominate as much as he was in the Eastern Conference, in the Western Conference because it's tougher, but you're going to see a huge regression in Shea Weber because he's just straight up not fast enough. He's not fast enough to keep up to relentless attacks of, he's going to have to go against Toronto Maple Leafs 5 times a year, and that team is fast and young, and it's going to be tough for them to comprehend that. Montreal did not get better by this deal, but Nashville did.
So you can,
in the long run,
you can also make the argument that PK Subban might not be tough enough to play in the Central Division.
That's not true. I think he's more than enough tough enough, and if he doesn't, He doesn't need to. He's fast enough to get through players, and he doesn't need to be that big presence.
He's a good player, but you're almost acting like they traded PK Subban for Radko Gudas. Like that's what you're coming off.
That's
no offense, Cam, but like Shea Weber's an all-star defenseman. He's gonna be an all-star defenseman.
But
like, I don't think
Montreal,
I don't think it was a bad deal for Montreal.
We both have we all have our opinions. I don't think that,
just
back to it.
Montreal with Shea Weber, it's not gonna hurt them to have him.
Okay, they need to win in the next 2 years. Otherwise, this deal makes zero sense. Because if they don't win in the next 2 years, he's too old. Markov's done. They don't have a defenseman other than Nathan Beaulieu. At least with Subban around, they would have had Nathan Beaulieu and Subban, who are both under 30. 2 years from now, this deal makes no sense for the team. Nashville at least was smart enough to realize they want to get rid of Subban. We'll gladly take him because, like I said, all their defensemen, their top 4 defensemen, are all under 30. And then they have Philip Forsberg, who they just locked up. And they have Ryan Johansson. More core that's under 25 that is going to progress with this team and only be better. This makes Nashville better solely because of the age aspect and the fact that Subban is going to be way better under Lavalliette than he ever was under Therrien.
I guess we'll find out if he actually
I'm going to read real quick. Okay, PK Subban, Shea Weber. Subban, since 2010, 2011, 276 points, while Weber has 277. But as Greg had mentioned, 1 point apart, different competition, different level of play. And then you got Kate.
Both very good players. I'm not disputing that. And Shea Weber's offensive production has gone up significantly since Ryan Suter has left. Like, his career high in points was less than 50 when he signed his contract. Now it's over 50 consistently for the last 3 years. His offensive production's there. It's just the defensive side of the puck that I'm worried about. And that's why Montreal got him. Montreal did not get him to replace what Subban brought offensively. They're getting him for a defensive force that he's not at that level that he was when he entered the league anymore.
But like the thing too is like PK Subban went to a better team. Doesn't mean he's a better hockey player. He went to a better team, so that team could be very good. But they're already.
But there you go. That's what you're saying with the 20 goals with Weber. It's like
they're already a better team. Yeah, Shea Weber went to a team that's not as good. Doesn't mean he's not as good a player. And he might be relied on now to he might have to be their Subban where they everything falls on him.
Is he allowed?
And I don't know if he'll be. One guy's not going to make a team better, so he might flounder for that.
This definitely isn't the NBA.
Is he allowed to take slap shots in practice anymore? Because if I'm Terry, I'm like, I get the fuck away from Carey Price.
Therrien doesn't know how to coach, so he'll probably just.
Let's just throw.
He's like,
this
what's
out
a
there.
slap shot? He probably doesn't.
Okay, before
even
we
know.
go, just throw this out there for David Poyle, allegedly back in the day, being a little gun trigger shy, whatever that saying is.
Not anymore.
Seth Jones, Shea Weber, Martin Erat, and Michael Latta. Now here's the return. The main pieces. Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, PK Subban.
Some pretty good return.
Not bad.
All upgrades and younger, in my opinion. Now, obviously, I'm on the side of I think Subban is worth more right now and in the future than Weber is. I will be happily wrong if Weber turns out to be great in Montreal. I just don't see it happening. Now, you bring up a very good point with Erad and Forsberg. That is probably one of the biggest fleeces I've ever seen, if there's one.
Poyle's pretty good at it.
But here's the downside and why Montreal probably looked at this and they said, we can get them. Because apparently what I heard, and I don't have this 100% confirmed, but one of our old guest hosts, Stefan, told me this, is if Weber retires before his contract is up, Nashville's on the hook for that money. And it's not Montreal.
Here's the breakdown. If Weber retires before the contract ends, Preds will be charged on the cap $24,571,432 divided by years remaining in recapture penalty.
But you also have to remember, too, that...
It's brutal.
When did he sign? He signed that contract 2 years ago?
He signed that offer sheet 4
years ago. It's a 14-year contract.
I guarantee you that they've been trying to trade him ever since. Because I don't think
they would have let him walk. Why wouldn't you take those 6 first rounders?
4 first-round picks.
Because he just lost Suter.
I think...
But they didn't lose Suter.
They lost.
They chose
I
Weber
think when it
over
happened, they didn't want to lose their captain, so they matched it. And I think over the last 4 years, they've come to say, if we can move this contract, we didn't really want it in the first place. If we can get rid of it, let's get rid of it. Yeah. As long as they got something, and they swap 1 for 1. Both teams got a good player, and that's. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how it goes.
Oh, on the same day.
It'll be fun as a Jets fan because they play Nashville, I think, 5 times this year. So
So you have
here's my thing.
you'll get to see how that team is firsthand.
I think with Subban, is there's a lot of people harp on his defensive play and say that he takes a lot of chances. He's a much more exciting player, and I'm sorry, in the league now, I'd rather have an exciting player. I've said this before. Junior hockey to me is way more exciting to watch sometimes in the NHL because anything can happen.
They make mistakes.
It's nice to see.
Yeah.
So when Subban goes for that rush, goes end to end, it's the same thing as when Bufflin does it. Bufflin could lose that puck sometimes and turn over goal. And it's the same thing Subban does, yet Bufflin doesn't wear the goat horns because we understand Bufflin's upside. It's because Montreal and Bergevin and Therrien made Subban wear goat horns when he shouldn't have. And they really mistreated him there. And I would be very shocked, and I've heard this from other people as well, if Price stays there when his contract's up.
When is his contract up?
2 years. Because
I think the coach
that
has to
team
be a scapegoat before
that team is going downhill fast. If they don't make the playoffs this year, with the changes they've made, with bringing in a guy like, we'll talk about that, but bringing in this guy that they brought in this year, and on top of,
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We'll get there. It's exciting.
Because it's character problems why they traded PK Subban. So let's bring in a guy that's known boozer and shows up to games drunk and bring him in. Who's been.
It was a bad situation for PK.
However, I've heard other things as well from other people.
I just want to say, June 29th, 1990, Chris Chelios traded to the Blackhawks. June 29th, 2016, PK Subban traded to the Preds. They just suck at keeping...
Who, Montreal?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They suck at keeping cornerstone defensemen.
Now...
And I just want to say, of this trade, here's a summary of it. PK Subban is what people think Shea Weber is. And Shea Weber is what PK Subban is, what people think PK Subban should play like. They're both like the opposites of each other. People in Montreal want PK to play like Weber.
Yeah.
People in the Preds want Weber to play like PK.
Yep. But all I'm saying is the advanced stats on Weber are heavily unfavorable
He's
versus
literally
Subban.
one of the worst
advanced stats players.
advanced stats players. Not even
Weber?
Yeah.
In the league. There's a lot of...
He doesn't even force you to change your angle on
I
your
know,
shot or
but
anything.
I mean...
I think a lot of that...
Hey, we're going to learn about advanced stats next week.
Here's the thing. Now, we're going to have to switch gears here and go to signings, but last thing I'm going to mention about probably the craziest day in hockey history. Hall for Larson trade. Chiarelli is only the 6th GM in NHL history, or at least since 79, to trade both of the top 2 picks picked in their drafts. So he traded both Hall and Sagan, and only number 6 on this list. Serge Savard traded in 1979 Perry Turnbull and Rob Ramage. In 1979 as well, Ron Caron traded Rob Ramage again and Perry Turnbull. They both that happened. Those are the draft years. So those guys have been traded twice by the same GM. Yep, to different teams. Then in the 86 draft year, so this happened in 93, Joe Murphy was traded, and then in 89, Jimmy Carson was traded. Both those deals were done by Glenn Sather. Then from the 91 draft year, Eric Lindros was obviously traded by Bob Clark, and so was Pat Falloon, traded by Bob Clark. And then in the 1994 year, Ed Jovanovski was traded by Brian Murray, and Oleg Tverdovsky was traded by Brian Murray as well from that year. So that he's only the 6th player. And then the 2010 draft year, Hall and Sagan both traded by Chiarelli. So very interesting for sure to have that. The last trade, obviously, that we'll note happened today. And a biggie. Bernier was traded to the Ducks for a conditional pick. So essentially, Leafs and Ducks swapped Bernier for Anderson.
So why didn't they just do a goalie swap?
I don't know.
And I thought the reason that Anaheim got rid of Anderson is because they didn't want to pay 2 goalies a lot of money. But Bernier probably makes... Well,
it's because both Nonis, or I don't know if Nonis is part of Anaheim, I think he is, but Carlisle is very high on him, and so is Nonis.
Fair enough.
They're both very high on
Yeah,
Bernier.
bringing Bernier to another
I feel like Anaheim...
clearly established goaltending situation.
I feel like Anaheim's becoming the new Vancouver, and it's kind of ironic because they have a couple ex-Canucks, but they're that team where, every year they're like President's Trophy, but they're just such a mess that they're never going to win anything.
Exactly, I agree 100%.
Now, 5 years ago, that was Vancouver.
Now into Jets news. The biggest signing, other than what happened earlier today, Patrick Laine signed his entry-level deal, 3 years, $925K per year. However, bonuses can be up to, I think, 3.5, 3.8 or something like that.
It's like,
which,
something like that.
Then in free agency, they decided to go out and get Sean Matthias, 2 years at 2.125 for those 2 years, per year over those 2 years. They got Brian Straight, 1 year, $600K, and got Quentin Howden, 1 year, $600K as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Then
Howden's a two-way contract.
Exactly.
As well.
During that time as well, they re-signed Julian Melchiori for 2 years, $625,000 per, and today signed Brendan Kitchton, 1 year, $600K. Then yesterday they signed Matthew Perreault, third line center, 4 years, $4.125 million per season over those 4 years. That's the first deal I want to talk about. What do you guys think about Matthew Perreault signing?
Fantastic, love it. And I don't think he's a third liner. I think he's second line winger now.
I think
they're going to protect him now. They have to. You don't sign him to this if you're not going to protect him.
Well, they're 100% going to protect him. I already had that thought. I like it.
I feel like he's a very underrated hockey player. He's been close to a point a game over the last 2 seasons, and he's missed a considerable amount of time with injuries.
Now, that's the one thing people are worried about, is they're saying, we're paying a guy who's injured a lot. If he can stay healthy, well worth the money. If he gets 45 points a year, well worth the money. His comparables are guys like Darren Helm, who also got an extension a little bit less than Perreault got. It was, I have it here, might as well just say it right now, 5 years at 3.85 per. So not terrible, very comparable players. The thing is Perreault is a guy that plays PK, plays power play minutes, and basically is... Well, and he can move anywhere up from your top 9 to your top 6, anywhere in there.
He's not really a pest. He's just a skill. Like, I thought he was, but you watch him.
He's a pest.
Well, if you were about to say a skilled player, then you retract anything you've ever said about Brad Marchand, because they're the same player.
No, they're not.
They are 100%, and I'd take Brad Marchand any day of the week over Perreault.
Well, I would too.
100%.
I would too. I think
that's a great comparable for Perreault if he was skilled.
I think Marchand's more high-level skill than
Perreault was a rat-faced
dog,
dog, then yes, he would be the same.
Perreault is a rat-faced dog. He never fights, ever. He always ducks and weaves. But he got his arm like almost broken off.
Yeah, but here's the thing. He doesn't cheap-shot people. Brad Marchand does.
He does. Have you ever seen a Perreault play hockey? Ever?
Yeah, he's a pretty clean hockey player.
Oh, okay.
Says the guy that watched 2 Winnipeg Jets games this year because they were playing the Flyers. So I will take your word. I will take your word, absolutely.
I went to 6 games, and I saw him every time, and I hated him every time.
That's fine.
He's a player that players don't like.
Good.
Players don't like play. Well, don't say that. Players don't like playing against him, but players like playing with him, and that's the difference. And that's what makes him like Brad Marchand. Is he's a player you want on your team, you don't want to play against him. Whether he's a pest or not, I think that's very indicative of how you perceive what a pest is. I think he's a guy that gets to the dirty areas and pisses people off.
If you think he's a pest because he's small, then sure, he's a pest.
Well, he gets to the dirty areas and pisses people off.
He's feisty. He's not
he's a pest.
Well, that's the definition of a pest.
He's not a pest.
Then what do you call Brad Marchand? Brad Marchand's not feisty. He's a cheap shot.
He's not a cheap shotter. When has he ever been suspended for cheap shotting?
One time where he upended Matthias Oland in Vancouver.
In the 2011
where he upended him.
I'm sorry.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
People hate Brad Marchand because they look at him and they say, he's a dirty hockey player. The truth is, if he plays on your team, you're cheering for him every second he's on the ice.
That's why Dan's on Perreault's side. I'm not against Perreault.
Hey, I remember...
Every team has one.
You just said you hated him.
No, I didn't say I hated him.
You said you hated him.
You said I've hated him ever since. So, okay, Mr. Big-time Winnipeg Jets fan over here.
I'm not. I'm saying I like watching him play when he's not playing the Flyers. Or any team I support.
But here's the thing about Perreault is when he wasn't playing against the Jets, when he was playing against, I believe he was on the Capitals. He was on the Ducks. Not a fun player to play against, and you notice him when he's on the ice. He doesn't take a shift off, and he does do grimy things in front of the net. He's a definition, in my opinion, of a pest. But you need players like him, and he's guys that rally other guys up and really groups them all together, and I really like that. I like what he brings to the table. Essentially what they're saying is he was as valuable to this team as when Andrew Ladd signed his contract when Andrew Ladd came to this team, because Andrew Ladd got 4 years at $4 million, I believe. This is just a little bit more, but I really like this deal. I think
it's good. Yeah, no,
I liked it.
Solidifies
their top 9, because I don't think he's going to... He'll play sometime on the second line next year. He's going to be a stopgap for a lot of younger players. But when you look at other third line centers in the league, like I said, Darren Helm, guys like Tyler Bozak or Nazem Kadri, they're all in that.
Move him around.
Right in between that 3.5 to 4.5. He's right in between that. I think that's great. That's what a third line center gets paid nowadays.
And he got the bonus because he could play center too. There's for sure extra money.
Oh, for sure.
Because he's a centerman.
Now, the biggest contract of the day today.
Here we go. Is
Mark
it now?
Scheifele
Okay.
was signed for 8 years, $6.125 million per.
Whoa.
Good contract.
That's a big.
Why is it a good contract?
Why isn't it a good contract?
That's a big boy. I don't like the length.
Okay, here's the thing: is
He's going to be your number one center.
I'm not disagreeing that.
They've committed to him, so why is it a bad deal?
I'm not saying it's.
Is this one of those like you're paying more now and hopefully you make it back?
That's what I'm thinking as well.
Alright.
Now, a lot of people will say this is a steal, considering what Nathan MacKinnon got today. Nathan MacKinnon, the first overall pick of the same draft, or a draft a year later, got 7 years at 6.3. Now, MacKinnon also won Calder Trophy. However, his production has declined over the last few years, not to the same extent. Like Mark Scheifele's been trending upwards, whereas MacKinnon's kind of been on a wave. He had a very good first year, down sophomore year, better rebound year last year. Not sure if I think Colorado's a little bit deeper and doesn't rely on him as much as Mark Scheifele does. This is they didn't give me a show me contract. They gave him a we think you can do this. This is a contract that I don't think he's worth it in the first 2 years of this deal. I think he really has to prove to the organization that he's a first-line center going forward. That's the only thing that I think if one or two more, I think a bridge deal, I know that he's worth this money, but a bridge deal to me would have just solidified, and he would have been paid more. To be honest, if they signed him 2 or 3 years at $4 million or $3 million for a bridge deal, they would be paying more out of the gate for his next contract, because if he is worth this money, he'd probably be worth $7.5 million after a bridge deal if he accomplishes the things they want. So from that standpoint, the fact that he could be worth $7 million in 3 years, it's a good contract.
That's what's going to even out.
But the fact that he's not worth $7 million right now because we're not sure if he's going to be able to achieve at a top line center role for an entire season. He did it for part of the year last year, was very good when he was healthy, but can he do it for a whole season? And he's playing with one of the best wingers in the league, probably one of the most underrated wingers in Blake Wheeler. It's definitely a contract that solidifies, like I said with Matthew Perreault, solidifies their top six now and says Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, Brian Little, Matthew Perreault. Those are guys that are solidified in there, and then you can throw Ehlers in there, and you'll probably throw Laine in there as your top six moving forward. Not a bad top six, but the thing is this deal could look bad, let's say, if Mark Scheifele gets hurt or doesn't produce, and then people are going to be wondering why they signed him for 8 years. 8 years, yeah. The only thing that scares me is the term, not because I don't think he's worth it long term, but because of the unknown.
Well,
that's a really...
He had 61 points. 61 points in the NHL now gets you at least $6 million.
Yeah, we talked. Yeah,
which
any elite player is 65 points,
which is ass backwards because whatever. But I know we're going to talk about some of these free agent signings, but if you look at probably the top 5 or 6 free agents, they all got paid above what Mark Scheifele is going to get paid.
Yeah,
he produced above all of them. I get that he's done it once, so he has to do it again. But if he turns into a 60, 70 point player consistently, and he's getting $6 million until he's 31, that's a steal. It's a steal when Milan Lucic gets $6 million until he's like 35 years old.
Yeah, but Milan Lucic is getting paid for
to
another
protect the
reason.
kids. I get it.
Now,
but still,
we'll talk about Milan Lucic in a second.
See, I just want to clear up. It's 6.125.
125.
And they went 8 years.
$49 million.
That's $49 million.
They went 8 years because apparently Scheifele said he wanted an 8-year contract.
Yep.
That's it? What do you mean? He just asked?
Yeah.
Well, no.
Can I have 8? Yeah.
Quote here, I wanted an 8-year deal. That's what I wanted right from the start. So he wanted to be here for a long term. And the Jets are going to go with it. You know what? They'll probably sign Trouba with a similar deal.
Oh, God, no.
God,
please no. Oh, God, no.
Can you guys just relax?
Yeah,
Jesus Christ, you guys are overreacting like women.
It's Trouba!
He's not worth $6 million.
I 8 years.
Can you?
Not even 8 years.
No,
can you
let him
calm
finish.
down?
You gotta
when
finish.
did I say they're going to pay him $6 million? I said they're going to sign him a similar contract where you pay him more than you think he's worth at the start.
No.
But in 2 or 3 years, I'm not saying he's getting $6
Let him
million.
finish the sentence. We're jumping
I know,
to conclusions.
I know.
You guys
I know,
both today.
I know.
I'm gonna put you both through the wall. Fuck.
Okay, go.
They're gonna pay him more than he's worth right now. He might get $5 million for the next 3 years. Is he worth it right now? No. But in 3 or 4 years, they're hoping he's worth a lot more.
Well,
That's what Scheifele's doing.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing.
Like, for 6. I was like, what the hell are you on?
How many of those contracts can you sign until you actually start signing players for their true value? And with Trouba, in respect to the signing, I'm going to say he's not going to sign this because of what Seth Jones got signed for, which was 5 years at, I have it right here, Seth Jones, 6 years at 5.4
Yeah.
per.
Trouba will get signed that, and right now he's not worth that. I'm saying that might be what he gets. I'm not saying he's getting 6.5. He might be worth. He might sign that. He's not worth that right now. He's probably worth about.
Well, of course
3.
you're gonna sign it. We'd all sign it.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But it's the same philosophy.
Oh,
You pay him a lot right now, and in a few years you hope that what Blake Wheeler deal.
Man, I know.
And Bryan Little deal.
They're paying him $575. He had 78 points this year. That was like 8th best in the league.
But okay,
They signed him 3 years ago when he wasn't an 80-point player.
but no one hated that deal either, and no one should hate the.
But you look
Scheifele
at that
deal.
contract now, and look how good it looks now.
No, and that's not what I'm saying.
That's how
But
the Jets do.
how-
They don't overpay. You know,
But how many contracts can you say, well, we're going to overpay you now in hopes that you're better for the future? Eventually,
he's the only.
You're
they're
playing-
gonna catch up.
but no,
Scheifele's
like,
the only one.
but they did it with Blake Wheeler. They did it with Bryan Little. You're saying they might do it with Trouba. Eventually, that might catch up and burn you. And that's what I'm going to say about this Aaron Ekblad deal that I saw, is that they're paying him a lot of money for future Aaron Ekblad. Not right now Aaron Ekblad. And it's a scary thought. And it takes a lot of boldness from a franchise standpoint to say your first contract after your entry-level deal is an 8-year, $6.1 million. It's a scary thing to think about. But, I think if you sign too many of these deals that are long-term, saying, show me later, it might come back and burn you. And that's, a lot of people will say that about the Phil Kessel deal. I still think he's worth $8 million per season. People will say that about the PK Subban deal. He might not be worth 9 now, but by the time he's 30, 31, he's going to be the best defenseman in the league. And that's, you can only sign so many contracts like that before it starts burning you. I'm not saying that I'm opposed to them doing that. They just have to find out when do they sign people for their true value. And I think Trouba's one of those guys that should sign a bridge deal this year, just because based on what Seth Jones signed for, Trouba wants more than 5.4 per year. And I don't think the Jets are going to gamble that because they're not sure what he's going to produce.
Seth Jones wanted a lot more too. He settled for this. That's the way.
But will Jacob Trouba? That's the thing.
And just my thing, the Bryan Little and Blake Wheeler contracts, they didn't overpay them. They paid them exactly what they were worth. Mm-hmm. Those two guys, Blake Wheeler was a 60-point player when he got signed that contract. They signed him for $575. Bryan Little was a 25 to 30 goal scorer, probably around a 50 to 60 point guy. They signed him for $4.5. Those guys' production has increased. They didn't overpay them. They paid them what they were worth, and those players have gotten better. So it's a little different than the Scheifele contract where he's hit 60 once. And they're saying, do it again. So
but Bryan Little, Blake Wheeler had 1 year or two. When they paid him, he had 2 years when he was a top winger. We didn't know if he was going to continue to produce at that level. It's a small sample size. All I'm saying is, when you take a small sample size, you might eventually get burnt. That's all I'm saying.
You might.
There's upside and downside to both.
You might get burned when you sign guys that are 30 years old to 7-year contracts, so they're making $7 million a year for 7 years.
I don't know who does that.
Quite a few here in the free agent
$7 million. I don't see $7 million.
Okay,
in free
sorry.
7 years.
6. 7-year contracts. The guys are getting $6 million. That's ridiculous.
That's just the open market.
All right,
the best
There
thing
were
the
a lot
Jets
of
do.
bad deals in free agency. Let's put
Yeah,
it
there
that
always is. There always is.
Oh, of course.
The thing
in
is,
3 years, half these players are going to get bought out, or they're going to be shopped around because no one wants them.
That's just the thing, and that's one of the things that I love about the Jets is they never go out and go crazy in free agency. The biggest free agency deal they've signed is Matthew Perreault, 3 years, $3 million, and that paid off so big for them over the long term. And that's what teams have to do. But one of the best signings, and the number one signing we'll talk about, is James Reimer gets a job with the Florida Panthers, 5 years, $3.4 million.
He did the Bozak deal.
Well, he did the Sidney Crosby deal. get paid your number. But he's more than worth
Damn it, I gotta
3.4.
change my number.
His numbers have been decent enough to deserve that, and he's going to be a good stopgap between him and Luongo. He's going to give
Bobby
Luongo a
Lou
break.
and whoever they have in prospects, they don't.
Yeah,
There's no
exactly.
goalie prospect for
Well, you want to know who's going to be...
Inform me if you think they
You
do.
want to know who's going to be their goalie when Luongo goes?
James
We're
Reimer.
Hold never
looking at
down.
him.
Rhyme time.
He's the
Exactly.
guy. They obviously they have faith in him, and I don't think they're wrong. Could be a lot worse.
Could be a lot worse. You could have Andre Pavlik.
And 3.4, if he turns out to not be good enough to be a starting goalie, you're not paying him that much.
No, exactly. It's not hurting
Somebody
you.
will take that contract if they need to get rid of it.
Not hurting
Or
you
if you
one
keep him as a backup, that's not the worst.
bit. Andrew Ladd signed with the New York Islanders, 7 years, $5.5 million per.
Here's where I'm saying he's going to be 37, making $5.5 million.
And I don't disagree with you. And this was
That's a dumb contract.
Did we not talk about this all year that
No,
he
I know.
probably shouldn't have a long-term contract with high value?
And this is why the Jets didn't sign him. Jets had no problem paying him $5.5 million right now. They don't want to pay him $5.5 million from 4 to 7 years from now.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
And we talked about that with Bufflin as well. It's a very scary contract, which moves us into the David Backes. 5 years, $6 million per. Don't understand this deal either.
Why Boston?
Why you have Bergeron and Krejci? Why do you get Backes? Why? It makes no. It's like when St. Louis signed Stasny. Like if they don't sign that Stasny deal, they could have signed Backes this year.
They don't sign Stassi. They probably could have had a pretty formidable winger to go along with Tarasenko.
You know what?
And Beckes.
I don't know how good they're going to be next year.
Who,
Guys,
Boston or St. Louis?
St. Louis.
Yeah, I know.
It's like
They're-
watching paint dry. Welcome to the club. I'm telling
Like,
you, it's awful.
it's scary. They went from being the team every year. They're like, like they're going to be like 1 or 2 in the Central to like, I don't know.
Boston made some dummy moves.
Boston.
Well,
This is the dummy move.
Don Sweeney just decided to jump the gun and get an old player. Like I said, I am glad the Jets are not on this list for over-signing guys, and I'm very glad the Toronto Maple Leafs are not on this list for over-signing guys. Now, we'll get to that in a
That's the
second.
thing people forget. People get mad. Oh, the Jets didn't do anything. Well, do you really want these contracts?
You could argue they overpaid Sean Matthias, who might only be worth 1.9, but oh well, they're paying him an extra $200,000 for 2 years.
I would take Sean Matthias for $2.5 million over David Backes for $6 million any day of the week. David Backes is a much better hockey
But that's
player.
also because of
A lot of-
flexibility of that.
But I'm
a lot
just
of
saying,
people were
it's a
talking about
better.
that.
It's a better deal.
Like, the one shocking thing with this is there were no huge dollar values. Like, people were associating David Backes to $7.5 million earlier this season. He's just not at that level, especially long-term. It's very rare that guys are going to get this long-term, but $6 million, like, there's another guy on this list that we'll talk about in a second here, and we're actually going to have to phone in a guest to be able to properly talk about that contract because it's a little ridiculous. But to move on from there, Montreal Canadiens decided to get rid of a character guy in the locker room and bring in another questionable character.
He's changed.
This
in
might be
Alexander Radulov.
This might be one of the worst signings I've ever seen.
No
1
way.
year, 5.75.
When I saw that, I was jacked up. I love watching A-Rad play.
5.75.
I'm okay with that. It's
He's making
A-Rad.
the same amount as Blake Wheeler.
It's A-Rad, though.
But
He's
here's the thing.
I
exciting.
don't care who it is.
The top scorer in the
He's not
KHL
that
last
good.
season.
Last
We
season,
don't know-
every year forever, pretty much.
We don't know what he's going to produce there, and it might be the right fit. We don't know. We don't know what Radulov can do if he doesn't go crazy.
The pissed off gerbil. It's awesome.
Remember when
It'll
he
be
came back
interesting
for
to see.
Nashville in the playoffs a couple years ago? There was a big hype, and what did he do? Nothing.
He went boozing
He did
after
nothing.
a game. Nothing's wrong with that.
It's 1 year, so it's only going to kill them for a year, but I think this is terrible. This is a terrible deal.
What if it works out great?
It's the
Then-
one I question the most.
then you eat your words.
Then so be it. But right now, I look at it, I say this is a bad deal.
Of all the deals that are on this list, this is the most questionable one. I don't know if he's worth 5.75.
No,
I know
too
that he
much.
wasn't coming into the league for anything less, but, well, Montreal,
Have fun.
hopefully that works out for you. Then the Florida Panthers beefed up their blue line after losing both Dmitry Kulikov and Eric Goodbranson and going out and getting Jason
Losing,
Demers.
trading.
Losing. I call it losing. They
Voluntarily losing.
lost. Voluntarily losing to improve their team by getting Jared McCann.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Jared McCann and Jason Demers a lot better than Eric Goodbranson.
And Kulikov together. Yeah, okay.
yeah.
All right.
Jason Demers is not that good. 4.5.
5 years, 4.5. I'd pay him that.
He's a 3-4.
He's a 3-4. That's what
I
they get.
guess.
paid.
Right?
I guess.
So-
but
Hey, would you rather pay Jason Demers 4.5, or would you rather pay Radko Gudas 3.3? Or is
well,
it
no, of course.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to go counterpoint with you, I'd rather pay Tyler Myers $4.5 million as your number 3 defenseman.
Is that what he makes?
Yes. For the next 4 years, he makes 4. His contract goes down. So I'm just saying, and it's all relative. There's
But
going to be good and bad contracts, but
Yeah.
like
That's just what it is now in the open market. Kyle Okposo, 7 years, $6 million, which begs the question, why the fuck did New York not keep him if they can sign Ladd for 5.5? Why wouldn't you sign a younger, better forward for the same amount of time for $500,000 more?
I think I will say this is a good contract for Buffalo. This is a good deal.
Very good deal. I just don't know how it's going to fit in Buffalo. Buffalo's got some question marks.
Wow,
there
and
for sure.
you guys,
especially in net with Lehner.
You guys, there was a ton of reports that they are trying to trade Evander Kane and nobody wants him.
Nobody wants Evander Kane right now.
Wonder why.
Yep. That's the first time hearing about it. It's because I haven't been on social media.
Well,
the moment you said that, I'm wearing a jersey of a team who did at one point covet that player.
But
but that was back in the old GM.
You have to remember, when he was here and there was all that stuff.
Where there's smoke, there's fire, and guess what? The fire keeps moving. So I wonder what the issue is.
Teams are like, what?
It's not the fans because we're not racist.
Teams are like, change of scenery. He's never played another team. Let's see how we go. He's been worse in a year and a half in Buffalo than he was in 5 years here, I think.
Hey, how dare you?
How many criminal charges does he have against him?
Oh, okay.
No, he's got 2
non-criminal assault charges.
I'm saying
harassment charges.
He better get his act together because if they're trying to trade him and nobody wants, last year he was one of the most coveted players that you could get. No one wants him now.
He's going to get bought out potentially.
I mean, he better get his stuff together. That's all I'm saying.
Now we're going to talk about the best signing of free agency in my opinion and the worst signing. But let's go to the worst signing. Milan Lucic, 7 years, $6 million.
Terrible.
In Dan's opinion, this is Dan's opinion.
He's a good player. He's not worth that much money for that long. I'm sorry.
I would pay him 6. It's
for 4 years. If it was a $24 million contract, I'd be like, yes, please sign me up.
He's 30?
He's 30.
Yeah,
he's 29.
Yeah, like a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
4 or 5 year deal.
So we're okay with the money. It's
the
years.
term.
Okay,
well,
okay.
$6 million.
Oh yeah. Okay, but it's like right on the brink where I'm like, okay.
I see what he brings to the.
He's a different type of he's not a star, but he's a top line player. He's a different type of top line.
What line sounds better to you though? Okay. Milan Lucic, Connor McDavid, Jesse Puljujarvi, or Taylor Hall, Connor McDavid, Noodles.
Well, line one, but
clearly option one.
But
no. Have you seen Lucic skate?
But here's the argument.
But they've proven year after year that it doesn't matter how many young kids they got, it doesn't work.
But here's the thing: by being able to get a guy by not signing Milan Lucic and getting rid of Taylor Hall, they would be able to open up to losing Nail Yakupov, Nugent Hopkins, Eberle. But it would also open the door for them to sign Jason Demers. It'd give them flexibility to sign other players.
What they did is the moment Taylor Hall got traded,
they're like,
I was like, that's happening. Okay, so we just subtracted 6 and added 6. What are you doing?
I just can't believe that they...
Milan Lucic is 28 right now, so he'll be 35 at the end of the deal. So, not awful.
Not awful.
Okay, so we're okay-ish with the money. It's the term.
They keep adding forwards. Yeah, they got a young defenseman who was supposed to pan out to be really good. He might not. But they keep adding forwards when they need defensemen. They got a defenseman, but they haven't really solved anything. Well, they're still going to be bad.
Here's their defenseman next year. Andrei Sekera, who they overpaid $5.5 million per. Oscar Klefbom, 4.167. He's only 22, so he's got a lot of time left.
That's a lot of money.
Adam Larson, 4.1. Their top 3 defensemen are all locked up to at least 2021. Then they have Mark Fane. Then they have Andrew Ferentz, who probably won't play this season, and then Darnell Nurse.
Last year.
But here's the thing.
And Nurse, that's the guy.
Nurse is the guy.
Their top 3 defensemen, if you go Sekera, Klefbom, and Larson, are any of them a top pairing defenseman, really?
Not in reality, no. Not right now.
Maybe Larson.
Larson when he is going to be 26, 27.
But that's their problem. Their top defensemen are not top defensemen.
Yep, I agree.
And they're getting
is Jason Demers a top defenseman?
No.
To bring in Greg's point?
He's a second.
But he's a formidable defenseman. That's what he is.
I'd say,
he's a good option.
Okay.
He's your slightly better Toby Enstrom.
Here's my question. Is
Jason Demers?
Well, I'm just saying, he's a guy that'll be in your top 4. He's not fantastic, but
you could get Chris Russell.
He's solid enough to be.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
He hasn't been signed yet.
Russell
is still a free agent. He's probably the biggest name on that list.
Are we going to long distance call Chris Russell to Edmonton?
No, because I don't think they. Well, they have $9 million, but let's be honest. Next year they have to find money to sign. Well, they'll have money next year. I think they have 50, so they'll have about $22 million next year to sign Yakupov, Draisaitl, who's going to get paid, and that's about it. They don't really have any big contracts next year up. So the other thing that Edmonton had is the monster Jonas Gustafsson in net at backup. So that's interesting to say the least. But now for the best signing in free agency this year,
he's not that good. Why are you looking
No,
like that?
I'm excited.
No,
I
I
didn't
know.
know.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
he's
Jonas
a big
Gustafsson.
name goalie, but he's not really.
I just like
Now for the
No.
best signing in the free agency this year, Eric Staal, Minnesota Wild, 3 years, 3.5.
I agree with you 100%. Great deal.
How the hell? Like, and
These are the kind of deals they should be signing.
Well, yeah, this is a Matthew Perreault signing. This is another. Okay, here's a guy that's got Stahl's got a cup under his belt. He's gonna go to a team who's in a win now attitude with Parise, Suter, Mikko Koivu, all getting older.
Okay.
They're all getting older, and how much longer is who the fuck's their goalie?
Darcy Kemper.
No, because they just re-signed him for 1 year, 1.15.
Dubnyk.
Dubnyk. How much better? How long is Dubnyk gonna play that well? And before we get on to that, how the fuck did they? Apparently, there was a Dumba for Nugent Hopkins almost guaranteed deal, and Edmonton said no. How do you say no to Matt Dumba? And then they go out and they do this. They made their team worse by not trying to make it better.
I think I'd take Dumba over Larson.
I think I'd take Dumba over Larson as well.
I'd probably take,
I think Dumba's got that. I think Larson's ceiling, he's a defensive defenseman. He's not an offensive guy. Dumba's a two-way defenseman. He can help you in the offensive zone, and he's great in the defensive zone. And he's a big guy, and he's tough, and he's rough, and he's a good, formidable defenseman that's going to play a lot of years. Same with Larson. But I think the ceiling's a little bit higher for Matt Dumba than it is for Adam Larson. And you're giving up Nugent Hopkins, where you're already bogged down at center. Because really, you have Draisaitl and you already have McDavid. Do you really need Nugent Hopkins clogging up $6 million, or you don't? So that's that. And we can argue about Edmonton for hours.
I almost wonder, when you hear these things, how much truth. Because, honestly, if they could have gotten Matt Dumba, or there were tons of Jacob Trouba, if they could have gotten Trouba or Dumba over Larson, why wouldn't they? If you're going to give up your best, arguably your best player aside from Connor McDavid, why not get a defenseman with way more upside?
Well, that's a great point. I heard rumors around the draft time, tweets, Twitter, where it was PK Subban for Taylor Hall or PK Subban for Nuge.
It was the deal that was set in motion that Edmonton didn't want to sign. And granted, this is one of the other reasons why I think the whole Montreal thing was just or Subban for Weber was an absolute joke. Apparently on draft day, Montreal phoned Edmonton. Montreal phoned Edmonton saying they're shopping PK. They wanted Leon Draisaitl, the 4th overall pick, as well as I think it was Jordan Eberle. No, sorry, it was Darnell Nurse for PK Subban. Nurse, Draisaitl, and the 4th overall. So Puljujarvi, Nurse, and Draisaitl. Their last
obviously
3 picks.
I wouldn't take that if I was
Too much.
Edmonton.
Exactly.
Of course not.
And then they trade him for Weber, which makes no sense. Why they wouldn't have accepted, and I think what I heard was Edmonton actually counter-proposed, and they're like, well, we'll give you Nugent Hopkins. And I think it was Yakupov and a second or something like that, and they're like, no, that's too little. Yet they take this deal, which I understand they wanted a defenseman
The flash
back.
dash.
It's very interesting.
So it almost just goes to reinforce too that, especially with all the Trouba stuff, that it's if there's obviously no credibility to any of that.
We just don't know.
Well, if it just.
This is awesome. I loved how this blindsided everybody.
No
and
one
you know
knew.
it blindsided everyone because even Mackenzie and Drager were like, "Whoa, whoa."
It was like Jim Benning was doing all these trades. Speaking of that, we have Jim Benning on the phone right now.
I had a good
Jim,
line.
it's
All right, fine. I'll
You got a good line. What's your line? Tell me your line, Jimmy.
It's a Flames line, and I saw.
Berkey.
Oilers.
It's Berkey shit too.
I saw it on Twitter. I
Berkey.
thought it was funny.
What's your
Edmonton is the only team that could make a deal with the Devils and not make the playoffs still.
That's funny.
It's a funny one.
Okay,
It's fun,
so
yeah.
Jim, just wondering, is your team's mentality win right now? Is that the mentality?
You fucking play to win the game.
Okay.
Just listen to me, okay? You listen.
Okay.
You got to play to win, and you play to win. You're playing to win.
Fair enough. Just wondering right now. You signed Louis Eriksson, 6 years, $6 million. Is he your Radim Verbata replacement?
Okay, well, Verbata Tata. Is she even signed yet? You didn't sign?
No, he's still a free agent.
Well, he's probably out there playing Pokemon Go. Fucking great game. You get it. He's so awesome. I'm gonna... Wait, what was the fucking question? What was the question?
Why did you sign Louis Eriksson 6 years, $6 million? What made you want to do that?
Because when I was younger, I got real good at doing like multiple math tables.
Okay.
You know, the math tables. And I got really good at 6 times 6, 36. So Louis going to wear 36.
Is he going to wear?
I don't know.
Even though he's never worn that his entire
I
career.
don't give a fuck what
Okay.
you think.
Last thing before I let you go here, Jim. You also decided to lock up your backup goalie, Jakob Markstrom, for 3 years at $3.666666. Why did you sign that deal now when he's still a young goalie, hasn't really proven himself, has been up and down between the AHL and NHL for the last 3 years?
How many fucking years did I sign for?
3 years.
3 years. Well, first, I just told you. 36. And sometimes I get real excited. And I kept writing 36666, and then it was like Satan is here. And I was like, yeah, no, let's make it 3 times 3, 9. We should have done 9 years. It was worth it.
Fair enough. So
what are you paying your backup, Big Shot?
So, well, no, my question is like, would you rather have Jakob Markstrom at 3 years at 3.66 or have James Reimer at 3 years at 3.4?
Well, Markstrom was already here. It was down the hallway. I just made a call. I don't have the long distance call. Okay, from Vancouver. We gotta save that money for.
Well, you're probably paying a lot in rent and stuff there. So I'll let you go here because this is a long distance call. So thank you for joining us again today, Jim. We'll probably call you next time you do something stupid.
You do something.
Wait. Here's my last question. Were you a little upset that you didn't include Hull in your tampering speech? That you were trying to get him as well?
You know, actually,
because you mentioned Subban, you mentioned Stamkos, but you didn't mention Hull.
They cut my mic. Actually.
Oh, okay.
I did mention Taylor Hall, but thankfully that guy cut my mic. But I'm glad because I brought him around a golf.
Oh, nice.
I bought him around. I bought him a golf course.
Perfect. Do you think you'll make the playoffs next year?
Fucking right, we're gonna win all.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Cup.
Thank you, Jim. Now, Cam, Calgary Flames signed Troy Bauer for 4 years at $4.5 million. What do you think of that deal?
That's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Okay, fine.
Decent.
A mil more than I thought. You're gonna sign. I like. That's a veteran move. They need leadership in that room. I know. I hate that stupid garbage. Or you need experience, but you know what? As I'm growing older, yeah, you actually do need experience in the room. It helps. I like it because you know that right around the horizon, he's gonna be a great role model for Monahan and Gaudreau.
Yep.
Like, have you ever even heard of Troy Bauer in the news ever?
No,
I haven't.
No, just a formidable player, played in a long time, been a lot of good winning teams.
I like that.
St. Louis as well as Washington.
And a 4-year term at his age is not. It's not bad.
Well, it's formidable. Matthew Tkachuk signing his 3-year entry-level deal at $925,000 per with Calgary. Now we got a pair of signings from Detroit, along with the extension of Darren Helm. Like we mentioned earlier, Darren Helm, 5 years, $3.85 per. And then we have Thomas Vanek, 1 year, 2.6. And then Franz Nielsen, 5 years, 5.25. And that's because they couldn't land the big fish, which was Dave Backus, I believe, was the...
No, Lucic was the guy they wanted out.
Well, they...
Stamkos.
No.
Detroit.
Nielsen is because they couldn't sign Stamkos. There we go. So, Nielsen, 5 at 5.25.
Vanek deal is great. The Nielsen deal is way too much.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
He's 32. He's going to be making $5.25 when he's 37.
Well, they were going to pay Pavel Datsyuk $7.5 for when he was 37.
So that's there.
That's not
Datsuk.
twice.
No, there's your Datsuk right there.
He's twice the player.
No, but those two players are your
Nielsen's
Datsuk.
not
Look at the
bad,
money.
but
Literally.
There's your Datsuk.
That's your Datsuk.
Yeah.
But no, I think Franz Nielsen, formidable player. I like the term. I
It's
like
not terrible.
I like the money.
Well, this was like the Filppula deal a couple years ago.
Exactly.
Where, yeah,
And 5.
I'm
yeah.
okay with that.
I like it.
And
It's a stopgap.
He's
for
a
their team.
second-line center. That's what they make.
Well, no, right now it's a good deal, but I'm just saying in 5 years,
I still think it's a good deal. Mikhail Bodker, which you're telling me is under investigation from the league, 4 years at $4 million per. With San Jose Sharks. Don't really understand what's going on with Mikhail Bodker.
Is it under investigation? Because like when this came out, they basically said he took a discount to win because they thought he'd get a lot more than this.
Yeah.
So is there tampering?
Yeah,
You
I'm
want to
pulling
sit
it up.
back down, Cam? Or?
Yeah. This is
You're jazzed up. We have a couple more before we get.
I know, and I'm excited about one of them. All right, so this is what they said. For all front-loaded SBCs, as defined below, the difference between the stated player salaries and bonuses in any immediately adjacent league years of the SBC cannot exceed 35% of the stated player salary and bonuses of the first league year of such front-loaded SPC.
So they were front loading the contract.
Yeah, they were front-loading it
Too
by
much.
doing 5-5-3-3. So now they're just they restructured it according to the same general manager. We got this. So now it's just 4 right across the board.
Okay.
Because
So
they were
he's
trying to front load it.
So he still is a Shark.
Yeah. Oh, he's
Still
still
gonna
a
be a
shark.
Shark.
I like
Okay.
that sign.
That's
Solid
good.
sign.
Good
So do I. Good, solid guy. I'm going to add some speed to that team for next year. Something that they were lacking against the Pittsburgh Penguins in the playoffs last year. Dan Hamhuis, Dallas Stars, 2 years, 3.75 per.
Not bad.
Oh, they
Not
finally
bad.
got him.
Not
Because
bad
that
yet.
rumor's been going around for a while.
years.
Not bad,
Yeah.
but I feel like they on the defensive side, I feel like they lost more than they gained this year. I know they have a lot of young guys they want to get in, but that might hurt them. I think personally, but we'll see.
Matt Martin, 4 years, 2.5 with the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Thoughts, Greg?
Term I'm not a fan of. Think he's a formidable player. Would rather have him than Casey Zizekas at the money that they're both getting paid. Roman Polak, 1 year, 2.25. Once again, Roman Polak's going to get traded at the trade deadline again, like he did last year.
He is your new
Daniel Winnick.
Daniel Winnick.
Yep, it's going to happen again. Now, probably my favorite signing that I saw, which leads me into another question. Joel Colburn signing a 2-year, 2.5 per with the Colorado Avalanche, which means now that the Colorado Avalanche is center after locking up Nathan McKinnon, like I said earlier today, for 7 years, 6.3 per. They have McKinnon, Duchesne, Soderberg, Colburn, and I believe they have one other, Grigorenko.
Not
Meaning they're going to be moving, most likely, either Soderberg if they can or Duchesne at some point for a defenseman. Do not be surprised if that happens, even if they have to sell low for it, because Joel Corbin's going to be their number 4. Then they have Grigorenko at 3, Soderberg at 2, and McKinnon is their number 1. Do not be surprised if that's the structure they want to run with.
Why didn't Calgary offer like give him a qualifying offer? He had 18 goals last year.
They just didn't see a
Why?
fit, I guess.
I guess, but he's a young guy.
Journeyman Lee Stepniak, 2 years, 2.5 with the Carolina Hurricanes. So when trade deadline show comes around this year, expect him to be moved again. I'm not sure where, but just
His
expect
goal
it to
by
happen.
now is to play for every team. He's played for
Yes.
10 teams. He'll play for every team.
Another really good signing, Brian Campbell with the Chicago Blackhawks, 1 year, 1.5 per.
Not bad.
Hey, it got done. I joked. I said, yeah, good luck. Well, Brian,
It happened.
They did it. And
he actually, did you hear about the deal that Florida
offered him a
No.
lot of money.
They offered him like 1 or 2 years, and per it was like 5.5.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like the Demers money.
He just wanted to
basically.
go home.
Yeah, he wanted to. Well, he wants to win.
Wants to go play for
Oh,
Chicago.
Chicago! Jordan Tutu!
1 year,
Yeah.
750K.
Yeah.
Great signing.
Not bad.
Now, the Philadelphia Flyers signed Dale Weiss, 4 years, 2.35 per. Great signing, great
Yep.
deal.
Yep.
Nothing wrong there. Then
They made a good deal for once.
You know what's funny? I was a friend of mine or a friend of ours asked me earlier in the year, "Oh, what are your thoughts on Dale Weiss?" And I was like, "You know what? If he came to the Flyers on like less than $3 million, I'd love it. Like I love watching him
Yep.
play." So, perfect. The bottom 6.
Then they also
Oh, yeah.
signed a defenseman, TJ Brennan, 2 years, 6.2 or 625,000 per.
Is that 2 hours?
Great signing. I believe so.
Yeah, well, he's from apparently he's from like the South Jersey area,
Okay.
and so
It's gonna work
everyone's
out for
real
him.
excited about him.
Yeah.
So yeah,
The Devils signed 3 guys. Brian Lovejoy for
Who
3
is
years.
Brian Lovejoy.
What
Oh,
do you
no,
mean, who?
sorry. That's the wrong Lovejoy. It's Lovejoy. I forgot his first
Ben.
name. Ben Lovejoy. That's who it is. I don't know why I thought it
Oh.
was. It's Ben Lovejoy. I knew it started with a B, and I couldn't think of it today at work. So I was just like, okay, Brian. I knew it wasn't Brian. Ben Lovejoy, New Jersey Devils, 3 years, 2.66 per. Devontae Smith-Pelly, 2 years, 1.3 per. Vernon Fiddler, 1 year, 1.25 per. They're just essentially getting a lot of
Pieces to accommodate
their team.
whatever they have.
And then they re-signed Cal Palmieri for 5 years at 4.65 per.
Good deal.
I don't really know much about Palmieri, so I can't really.
He had 30 goals this year, I think.
Okay. Well, and like I looked at his numbers, they're very decent.
They
young-
also got
he's young,
Taylor
too.
Hall. So
Yeah.
He's
they
young.
also
Helps.
got Taylor Hall.
Adam Henrique.
Yeah,
You know
it'll
what?
help out.
This-
And Thomas Adrian.
We joke, but they're honestly like a couple really. They're a couple solid defensemen away from actually being a pretty good team again.
Well, they gave up a decent defenseman. Then
But they got a much better forward.
True. New York Islanders signed P.A. Parento, 1 year, 1.25. That's where Parento started most of his career. He played alongside of John Tavares and Matt Molson for part of his career. Very, very formidable signing. I think
money.
he's going to do very well there.
Good money.
Stu Percy, the only reason why he's on this list is because he's a former Leaf. I really wanted the Leafs to re-sign him or for him to go to a team like Colorado or Winnipeg. Unfortunately, he signs the Pittsburgh Penguins 1 year, $575,000 per. Then we get to the Florida Panthers signings. Riley Smith, 5 years, $5 million per. Aaron Ekblad, 8 years, $7.5 per. And I think that's it for them.
Well, they had the Keith Yandel.
Well, they had the Keith Yandel. But no, I mean,
yeah.
from last time we talked. So, Riley Smith, what do you think of that deal?
I like it.
Second line center, I guess I can't complain.
I like it.
Again, it's one of those not worth it now in my eyes, but I don't watch enough Panther hockey.
Yeah,
but I'm sure he has very big value.
He's in the Scheifele boat. He had a really good year this year, but it's the first really good year he's had. So,
and then we have Aaron Ekblad at 8 years, 7.5 per.
That team is going to be good again next year. They got Jason Demers,
but that's one of those
Keith Yandel and Ekblad as your top 3 defensemen. That's not bad. On top of they got Jared McCann, which was only going to make them better.
And then to round out some of the other signings, Lyndon Vey, 1 year, $700,000 per. I don't know. People were going crazy for him. Not really sure anything. Do you know anything about him?
He was drafted by the Kings and he got traded to not the Kings.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed to know. Teddy Purcell, 1 year, 1.6 with the Kings.
Good deal.
Calvin Pickard, 2 years, $925 per for the Colorado Avalanche. Backup goalie for Semyon Varlamov. Cheap, good. Darcy
Almost
Kemper
cost the Jets a playoff spot 2 years ago.
Yeah, Darcy Kemper, 1.55, 1 year. Magnus PRV Svensson, St. Louis Blues, 1 year, $700K. Mason Raymond, recently bought out by the Calgary Flames, now at Anaheim Ducks, 1 year, $675,000.
That's a great contract.
That's another former Canuck.
That's a show-me contract.
But one I don't see on here, St. Louis David Perron. Where is it?
Oh, no, I did not.
Because we don't waste our time with David Perron.
I didn't see that.
St. Louis is going to be interesting next year. Like, I don't.
You mean bad?
Yeah, they could
say
be.
It.
They
Say
could
the
be
sentence.
bad.
St. Louis is going to be bad.
Well, you know what? They've screwed me in the playoffs the last 4 years, so St. Louis will be bad.
Yay, he did it!
So the Perron was 2 years, 3.75 per. Now, their top forwards are Tarasenko, Stasny, Steen, Laterra, Perron, Berglund, Schwartz, who they still have to sign, Ryan Reeves, Kyle Brodziak, Upshaw, Fabry, Magnus PRV, and Landon Ferrero. But they did not qualify or offer him, so he's a UFA.
You know what? I take it back. They'll be all right.
They only have 10 forwards at the moment that are committed to their team.
But guys like Laterra and Schwartz and those
with
guys
$9 million
will just get bigger roles. And
would not be surprised if Radim Virata ends up a St. Louis Blue.
Also, if they're going to trade Kevin Shattenkirk, they will probably get something.
Would not be surprised if Shattenkirk for Duchesne happens. Could see that happen.
Back to Colorado.
Back to Colorado. Ooh. Could be interesting. You never know. Anything could happen. The last thing I want to touch on, because there's nothing really else major happening in the NHL unless you guys can think of it. AHL came out with a few rule changes. There's going to be no timeouts after icings. Now, these are obviously most of the time whenever anything happens in the AHL, it's always a test pilot for something to go into the NHL and be implemented there. So no timeouts after icings, and for fighting, game misconduct if the fight is off the face-off, and 1 game suspension with 10 fights in a season.
Define off the face-off.
That is
do we
coming,
have to count a couple Mississippis?
So
it's
essentially,
a stage fight, like they drop the puck and two guys fight.
I tap your pants and I say, "Let's fucking go," and then they drop.
Stage fight, which happens.
But now they have to wait for the play to start and then they fight to.
This rule comes straight out of the OHL because they've had this rule for the last couple of years and it's actually cut down the fighting a lot.
What they're saying is essentially situational fighting. So somebody hits your guy hard, and like dirty, kind of what happened with Mark Stone to Buffalo. Granted, it wasn't dirty, but
heat of the moment stuff is okay. But if two guys skate at the ice, they're like, "Hey, you want to fight?" Sure, they fight.
They skate down the ice for a little bit, and then they fight. It's still going to be a game misconduct.
Yes.
So it's just
there's actually a rule in the OHL. It's a stage fight rule. If the ref feels like it's a stage fight for whatever reason, both guys are gone. Mm-hmm. And there's also like this. If you're in 10 fights, you get a suspension.
I can't remember who tweeted out. It might have been Matt Martin, but I can't remember. He's like, "Fighting is not dead. It's just you have to be smarter about it now." Essentially, was a summation of the tweet. But we are done here for episode 100. So thank you guys very much for the last 100 episodes. Following along, whether that's on YouTube, on Google Play, or iTunes, wherever you get this podcast, however you listen to it. But check us out for the next 100. If you have a comment, leave it below in the YouTube comments or tweet at us at LastManInPC or email us at lastmaninpc@gmail.com. And last but not certainly least, we will see some of you guys at the Google Hangout that's happening right now, right away.
And if you're listening to this in the future, thanks for not coming.
Yeah, jerks. We don't like you.
Okay, goodbye.
All right.
Bye.